Arnold Austin, Coach AJ. Again, I'm really excited to be with you. I have a couple of things I want to go over that I know that's going to make a tremendous difference and a tremendous benefit for you. I'm going to be dealing with heartbreak, but I'm also going to be dealing with four signs or four things that you could look out for that could prevent you from going down that road. But also, it's also going to give you a glimpse into why we go down that road and what are the steps that we go through when we're going down this process. And so the first thing that I want to talk about is that anytime you've been or any person that you open up your heart to and that you love, you're automatically opening up yourself to understand what it is to go through grief and pain, because there's certain stages that you just naturally go through, and it's an evolution. It's part of how I understood my journey as I went through my healing process, or started it, I'll say, because I was at the start. And so the first part is to love. The first part would be, if you were going to number this, the first thing again would be love. Because you love people, because you open up your heart to people, because you are genuine, you're transparent, and you give up yourself to people, you put yourself in a position where, because you are loving someone, you've opened up your heart. You basically have opened up yourself to that person and said that, hey, I love you, regardless of if it's a personal relationship, of someone that's as far as your family, or if it's an intimate relationship. It doesn't matter the relationship. All it matters is, did you open up your heart to that thing? And it also expands beyond just the things that you do. It can be not only the things, but it can be people, it can be places and things. Because grief is not just isolated to things or people. It's isolated to anything that we ingratiate and allow into our lives, that we've decided that we're going to love, or that we're going to invest our hearts in, whether it's our animals, our business, our family, our friends, or the significant other, whomever it is and whatever it is. And because of that investment in the love for that thing, when you lose it, you're going to be hurt. And it's kind of ironic. I was kind of flicking through Instagram a little bit, and there's a new speaker on there. I don't remember his name, but he's kind of in the field where Joe Dispenza is and guys like that. And he was having a conference and he was doing some one-on-one calls. In the process of him doing the calls, he got on a call with this young lady who had a couple of dogs, and her dogs were like her safety blanket, because throughout her life, she never felt like she could ever trust anybody, or nobody ever was there as a source of love for her. And so what she ended up doing is that she began to ingratiate herself into the lives of her dogs or animals that she had raised and reared for all the years. But the issue was, her animals were getting older, and one of them had just got recently a diagnosis of a terminal illness, and so she's going through this whole grief. This is before her animal or her pet passes away. She's going through this whole process of grief before the event actually takes place, before the animal actually expires. And so this is why I'm trying to share this with you. It does not matter what it is. If it's something that we have taken our hearts and we've invested in it and we believe in it and we're 100% behind it and we're sold out to it and we've given our money or time or energy or whatever, and everything that we have, when we lose it, we feel the pain of it. So love would be the first one. When you love something and you lose it, love it and lose it. Put that in the chat. Love it and lose it. If you love something and you lose it, you're going to feel the pain of that detachment of that thing, whatever it is. That's why breakups are so hard. That's why when you lose the animal, or you lose the parent, or you lose the job, or you lose the business and the organization that you're a part of, the church or the office or whatever it is that you're a part of and that you've done, when you lose that thing, the loss of it is going to trigger something inside of you, because of how much you have invested of your heart into that thing. So the loss is going to automatically take you to a place of heartbreak. Heartbreak is something that can be actually measured. There's studies out there where they can actually prove that there's broken heart syndrome. And I'm going to go over some of the signs of that a little bit later as we get a little bit deeper into this video. But there's things these are actual events and things that take place within your life, based upon you being in the place where you decided to open up your heart, to open up your mind, to be someone that's open to other people, that's not going to harden yourself because of an experience or something that went on, and because of some one person or one man or one woman or your parent or whomever else or whatever other experience that you had. But because of those experiences, instead of you hardening your heart, you're going to be the type of person that you're going to keep your heart open, and you're going to stay pliable, and you're going to stay in a place of openness and nurturing and loving and kind, because I'll get to that. And so the next part would be heartbreak. And again, like I said, that's something that can be actually measured. They can measure that the difference between someone that has a heart that is normal, but after the heartbreak, they can see the swelling, they can see the scar tissue of the traumatic events, because the trauma to your heart, because our heart is our emotional center. If you follow a lot of the your heart is your emotional center. It's the place where you get if you believe in a lot of the what do you call it, like the chakras and things like that. Your heart is that center. It's that center. It's that place between your lower energy centers and your higher. So then the next thing would be grief. Grief is a natural byproduct, again, of the love that you felt, the loss that you felt, the heartbreak that you felt will automatically bleed you, will not bleed you, will automatically take you right into grief. You will grieve. And grieving is something that was naturally instilled in place within us from birth. You'll even see sometimes when a person maybe passes away, that you'll see these videos online where an animal is grieving, trying the loss of their master or of their person. Same thing with, of course, the same thing with us as people. But grieving is something that's naturally placed within us. We're going to grieve the loss of things. In my book, I talked about the 5 stages. There's some sources that say that there's 7, there's 9, there's 11, but I tied it down to 7. I believe I tied it down to 7. And in the chapters, I talked about grief, because grief was something that I experienced and I went through personally, based upon a lot of losses in a condensed period of time. And so because of the losses, it generated a high level of stress and anxiety and different things. And so I needed to find a way of getting past that. And so that's why I talked about one of the things I suggest to people to do is to read, to consider picking up reading, but not only reading but writing. When I'm not busy doing a lot of other things, one of the things that I found that is one of the greatest things that you can do is to write, because writing allows you to start opening up your heart and seeing yourself, start understanding the way you think, and the things that you might not really see about yourself, you'll start exposing as you're honest and you're putting pen to paper. But through that book, what I did was I kind of wrote out my journey through grief, through the loss of a long-term relationship, through the loss of some major financial losses, and a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety, and just being in a place where I just didn't know where to go. I was in a lost place. And so one of the things that kind of started this whole process that I wanted to share today is that, there was a quote that I posted up on, I believe, TikTok and YouTube, and maybe Instagram. I know it was a couple, 3 or 4 different places. And the quote basically said, "I would rather grapple with the pain of grief because I loved than to never have loved at all." And that's a quote that I kind of came up with. And I posted that post, and one of the young ladies that follows me, she responded to the post, and she said that she would rather do just the opposite. And I respected her opinion, but what her opinion showed me is that if you're not willing to, and this is why I talked about this, if you're not willing to love, because I don't know if she took the post to just represent our intimate or personal relationship or romantic relationship, but loving has nothing to do with just romantic relationship. Loving represents all of your relationships. It's your relationship with your mother, your father, your relationship with your siblings, it's your relationship with your animal, it's your relationship with your coworker, it's your relationship with your best friend or whomever, and whoever you have in your life. It's those are also included in it. And so I don't know if she took it that way or if she just took it from the mindset of just the romantic relationship, because there is a tendency for people to think that when they think of romantic relationships, there's a lot of gender wars and negativity about one gender versus another, and no, I don't need a relationship versus I want one, and so because that is prevalent with a lot of people, that could have been why she said what she said. And I'm not judging what she's saying, but I'm saying I would rather, like I said, I would rather grapple with the pain of grief because I have loved to never have loved at all. Because if you're gonna open up your heart to love people, whether it's as a person that's a servant to people as far as in a capacity like I'm doing right now, or if it's a personal relationship, intimate relationship, whatever the relationship is, if you're opening up yourself to love people, then what's going to happen is you're going to open up yourself to grieve. Because at some point somebody's going to get sick, somebody's going to pass, somebody's going to there's going to be some accident, there's going to be something that's going to go on that's going to bring pain based upon you opening up yourself to people and you opening yourself up to them. And so I talked about the broken heart syndrome, which is actually, it can be actually proven. There's five things I'm going to talk about real quick, which are part of the process of verifying or showing that you probably have the broken heart syndrome. And so the first thing would be if you're the type of person that have gone through some form of a breakup. You invested in this relationship, you were dating someone or with someone. In the process of you being with this person, you felt like maybe things were going well. Long story short, you end up finding out some information about maybe some betrayals or something, or maybe they just ghosted you and left you, whatever the scenario was. But the bottom line is there was some form of a breakup or some form of a disconnect between you and that person. So because of that breakup, what generally happens is part of how the breakup or the broken heart syndrome is triggered, or it happens because of the pain that you feel because of how much you have invested. That's why I talked about the first part, how much you had invested and how much you loved that person. Second thing is extreme financial losses. When you go through extreme financial losses, it's the same thing as when you go through the losses in a relationship, because everybody's makeup and everybody's design is a little bit different. Some people, things are more important as far as their business, their success, their finances, and so this is why you'll hear stories of maybe people jumping out of windows when the stock market crashes and just all these things, which you might say, man, why would someone do that? Because of the severity of the loss, because they loved success and money and all those things with all of their heart. And so when they lost, it's something that they couldn't handle. So they wanted to escape the truth that was in front of them. This is why people do things. There's a reason why people do things. And yes, there's times when you're not going to understand it, but that doesn't mean that it's not important. It still doesn't mean that it's not important to them. Passing of a loved one, of course, that's something that's obvious. If your grandmother or your parent or another sibling, pass, or your boyfriend or girlfriend or whomever, if they pass, that's going to be painful. I have a family member of mine that he had been dating a young lady for on and off for numerous years. She ended up going out one night with her friends, with her cousin. She went out one night with her cousin. In the process of going out with him, they were in some club or something. Then on the way driving home, evidently he fell asleep at the wheel. In the process of him falling asleep, he runs, because I'm from Jersey, and a lot of times when you're in certain parts of Jersey, they have these concrete things like in the middle of the road. They're like barriers. That's what I'll call them. And so this person ended up her cousin that was driving ended up falling asleep. So in the process of him falling asleep, he ends up hitting this concrete barrier. And so the car catches on fire, and he was able to wake up and get out of it, and she's still stuck in the car. And so she passes away. And so my family members struggled with that process, because this young lady was young. She was like 30 something, young, had her whole life ahead of her, had a daughter. And so it was tragic because of the age and because it was so senseless. Because you think of, what if this person had said, yo, I'm tired. Can we call it Uber, or can we do this or that? Because and of course hindsight is 2020, but when you go through those situations and you do something to harm another person based upon not considering or not looking at all of the ramifications of what are the pros and cons of doing something. It's hard, it's tough. So the passing of a loved one, and that's why I used the example of that story, because that was painful for that person. That's when I first, and that situation happened about 6 years ago, roughly 6 years ago. And again, she was a young lady, she's very lively, positive person, just a good young. And so when she passed, a lot of people were hurt and grieved based upon her losing, her no longer being with us. And and it was challenging. But the passing of any loved one, it's not just it's any loved one or anything that you love. And so the fourth thing would be intense fear of anxiety. If you're in a place of an extreme level of intensity and fear and anxiety behind events that are taking place in your life, that scar is going to be on your heart based upon that intense fear and anxiety. Because these are all things which cause the broken heart syndrome. Because it's not just a myth, it's not the myth or the legend. It's actually something that can be proven. Okay. Severe emotional stress and unexpected shocking news. These are all things that are part of this process of that broken heart syndrome of, someone that's really in a solemn and sad state because of these events and these news that is taking place within their lives, and them feeling kind of like they want to just throw up their hands and give up because they don't know what to do next. And the thing that I would try to encourage every single person on here is that, you don't have to stay in this situation by yourself. You don't have to remain in the difficulties that you're in. You don't have to remain in grief. I am a certified coach, and I know how to get you past where you are right now because I've been through it. If you get my book, then my book will tell you and show you, my story in detail, and it'll show you the stages that I went through to get out from under a lot of grief and a lot of pain and a lot of hopelessness into a place of being hopeful. And so the thing that you should ask yourself is how soon do you want your life to change? How soon do you want the circumstances that you're in to no longer be the way that they are now? Is today a good day? If today's a good day, you need to reach out to me. And so part of it is how soon do you want the benefit of feeling better, no longer being stressed out and concerned and anxious and confused and not really knowing what your next step is and what you should do next. What is it going to take for you to see that you've done certain things on your own up to this point, and if you haven't gotten the results, what is the one thing that you need to see right now that would make you make the decision to get the help that you need? For me, it was just all I needed was for someone to offer it to me. That's all I needed. And once it was offered, I went and I got the help that I needed. I hired a coach, and I went to conferences. I read the books. I did my all of the things that were taught, and so I found a way for me that I can help other people to get out from underneath depression and struggle and pain and heartbreak and to move to the other side where it's peace and it's joy and you feel free and you gain a level of freedom and gain your life back. You take your life back. You're no longer in the place where the circumstance that hurt you is still controlling your life. If you're ready to move past your circumstance that hurt you, no longer controlling your life, and you want to move to a place of being free from that, then you got to take the steps to be free from it. And part of you taking those steps is making the moves, doing the things that are needful, taking those little steps. How you doing, Matthias? Taking those little steps. And for everybody, the steps are going to be a little bit different. And so that's all I have for y'all. Appreciate anybody that's going to see this. I'm trying to just share as much information as I can and put information out there for people to see who are the people that are going to be part of the community. And again, just offer as a source to just offer my help to those that want it, and then just to keep things going. Okay, all right, y'all. Yeah, so appreciate that. Appreciate each and every one of y'all for being in here. And I appreciate everybody that's going to watch this. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, the follows, everything that anybody is doing. I I am extremely appreciative. Because I remember when I started this page, and it was just to get to 1,000 people on the page was like, it was the hardest. It was one of the more challenging pages that I've ever built. I got Facebook pages with 10,000 people and this many people, and this page, whew, but I see where it's starting to grow. I see the growth. I see the development, and so that's why I'm trying to push, and I'm trying to just put the information out there because I know that there's so many billions of people that's on this. So sometimes if you're not putting your stuff out there, you could possibly get lost in the shuffle. But I believe that the right people are going to see what they need to see and get what they need to get. So so